Hello, and welcome to the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. Today, Will is talking about reinventing your life and finding your true purpose. He sits down with Tim Timberlake, who is an author, speaker, and pastor, to discuss what it is that you need to do to reinvent yourself and find your true purpose. They share some of their own experiences, stories, and what has helped them reinvent their lives along with others that they've impacted. If you haven't already, go ahead and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes air. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go.
What's up, man?
Hey, Will, how are you, man?
Look at that beautiful smile. I was just checking out your page. I love your page. I love it. And yeah, I mean, you're a real dude, and you come across. I like the messages you share. I like you just got your book released, and you're
Yeah,
you're opening the package, dude. That's something I would do. Like a kid at Christmas, right?
that's it, man. It's a joy to kind of see it all come to life and to see it get in the hands and the hearts of some people, man. So it's been fun.
Well, so tell us about, let's just jump right into it, right? So why don't you give us a little bit of a background of who you are, how you got here, and kind of the evolution of this book? Is this your first book that you've
No,
written?
this is the second book.
Second.
The first that is kind of getting this type of notoriety and this type of momentum. But the way that I got to the book, man, I think oftentimes, some people write books from a great place, other people's write books from a painful place. And this book came from a place of really regret and, kind of if I had the opportunity to do some things over again, how would
Hmm.
I approach those things? And so I'm the son of a pastor who planted in North Carolina in the country. He and my mother in the early 70s, and they really pioneered an incredible church that was a lot different than the traditional church that people had seen in that time. And the church ended up growing really, really quickly, really, really large. And in a city of about 2,400 people, our church ended up outgrowing the population of the city
Wow.
because of how they led and how they taught about marriages and relationships and leadership and just things that were applicable to everyday life that most people didn't really think about. And the church grew, man, and they ended up going on worldwide television, on a couple of different global networks every single day. And I mean, it just was a snowball, man. I mean, it went from a few thousand to about 8,000 people in this small city.
Wow.
And in 1997, my dad was diagnosed with terminal throat cancer and was given 3 weeks to live. And he had the option of getting an experimental surgery. And so he opted for that. And they told him that it was a great possibility that if he had the surgery, that he would die on the surgeon's table because of how invasive it was. And so they kind of walked him through what that would look like. It was experimental because they hadn't done one this really extensive, where they cut you from ear to ear, they open up your neck, and they remove the tumor. And so when they
Wow.
did it, they removed the tumor from his neck the size of a chipmunk. But when they did it, they removed a quarter of his tongue. So he was no longer able to eat or drink through his mouth. And for the rest of his life, he was fed through a G tube.
Oh man.
And so my dad was a big guy, man. He was 6'4", 6'5", 250 pounds, just brolic dude. And within a matter of weeks, man, I saw him dwindle down to 170 pounds, lose his hair, and really cling on to his life. And, at the time, like I say, he was my hero. And I only saw him treat my mom with respect. I only saw their relationship thrive. And so my hero was fighting for his life. And my perspective at the time was, okay, if this is what life has to offer, if this is what I have to look forward to, I'm going to live my life the way that I want to live it. No boundaries, no control, no hesitation to do anything that I wanted to do. And at 13, that's how I approached life. And my dad continued to fight for his life. And on my 18th birthday, I remember he Had been in the hospital the week prior to that. And he sat me down on my 18th birthday, and he began to share with me what he felt God was telling him that I would do, and some of the things that I would walk into. And it was my 18th birthday, so I wasn't really paying attention, man. I'm thinking about going out with my friends and going to the club and doing something crazy. And, he's talking to me, and he's, just lovingly drilling into me what it is that he is believing my life is destined for. And after this 5-hour conversation, well, he pats me on my leg, he goes upstairs to his room, and he goes to sleep. And the following morning, 2 a.m., my mom knocks on the door. She says, "Hey, I need you to come help me get your dad out of bed. He's not responding." And so when I go downstairs, I pull him out of bed, and he's already gone, man. He's already dead. And I just remembered thinking to myself, if I had known this would be the last conversation I ever had with my dad, I would have listened with more intent. I would have taken the time to process what he was saying. I would have leaned into the conversation like it would change the trajectory of my life, because the reality is it changed the trajectory of my life, but it did not have the impact and the change that it could have had if I was being intentional about listening in that moment. And so this is where that book came from. That book came from that place, that painful place of, if I had the opportunity to do things differently, I would. But I will say, the pain from that conversation and the pain from the neglect of listening and being intentional made me into who I am right now. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that my pain and the way that I process it may help some people to lean into these moments and these minutes, man, that we are blessed with. And so if for anything, I believe that's the purpose of that pain, was for this moment right here.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's, yeah, I mean, I knew your background, but that's that detail. It's the devil's always in the details. And thank you for sharing that personal story of how that played out. And, that last conversation you had with your dad, I think that in a way it was very fortunate that, if obviously he was going to pass at some point, that was the last conversation. It was fresh in your mind, because maybe if you had it a month earlier, and time had passed, maybe that wouldn't have been, and you just kept doing your thing, that might not have grabbed you like it did with that impact, right? I always talk about how, unfortunately for human beings, a lot of time we have to hit our rock bottom. We have to have like a really painful, super emotional experience to kind of wake us out of
Absolutely
whatever the life that we're currently in, that's leading to to the wrong place. And to be able to, and I had mine in college. I had my rock bottom, and fortunately I was suicidal, and I was able to flip mine, and mine wasn't a death or anything like that. But yours, that impact, that moment, you're very blessed and lucky, in my opinion, to have had that right then. And then that's when he left this earth. And it's sort of like and that was the last conversation you had in your head. And you went, you know what? Smart man, great dad.
Yep.
I'm gonna take that advice and I'm gonna run with it. And now look at you, man. And now you turn into a book. How good does that feel? You got it all out. You've expressed. You've given it all to the world. What's inside of you. I mean, there's no better feeling, right?
Yeah, I think the best way for me to describe it, it's almost like a slingshot. When you're going through the pain, or when you're going through the trauma, it's like you're being pulled back, and there's tension, there's frustration, there's pain there. And the further back you go, when it's released, the further you're projected to make an impact. And I think that when we go through these catalytic and really transformational things in our life, either we can lean into them with courage, or we can draw further back in comfort and really try to figure it out. Okay, what does it look like? What am I going to do? Versus allowing the process to run its course, so that we could have a greater impact and help people through whatever it is that we overcome and come out of. I'm a firm believer that no pain should enter into our life without it propelling us in some way. You know, every pain has the ability to teach us something if we allow it to.
Well, and that's, that's where the mindset comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know and I want to talk more about, obviously your pastor,
Mm-hmm.
religion, different people see the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, before I want to mention briefly so this mindset, you've essentially developed what I call a growth owner mindset, which
Mm-hmm.
is you fail forward. You don't waste the pain. Like when bad things happen or a tragedy or a mistake or something, but you go, okay, that sucked. I'm human. Didn't
Yeah.
feel great, but right. Anybody that says, oh, you just got to welcome that,
Right.
no. Okay. But the difference is how quickly you go, all right, that sucked. Yep. But now how do we take that? How do we use it? And how do we make me bigger, better, faster, stronger, smarter, and use it to help the world do the same? And that's, to me, that's everything. When you have that growth owner mindset going for you, sky's the limit, right? Because you can do, and it sounds, it is easier said than done. And, it is a simple thing, but like when I hit my rock bottom, I'm sure yours didn't happen overnight either, right? No. It's a process, because especially when you've got those habits built in, and your mind's going one way, and you're like, okay, I think especially 18-year-old kid, I got life figured out pretty decent. I think I know what's up, which you have no idea. And then it's like to be able to serendipitously have the moment you had, I had to be able to kind of reset and get that 10,000 foot view and go, all right, death is inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. Where do I want to be at the end? And I'm willing to bet that's what went through your mind. Sort of like, okay, when I die, what do I want said about me at my funeral? Do I want to be like my dad? Do I want to be like this? And that just shifted your whole perspective and started building that growth owner mindset. And clearly you've, slowly but surely developed it over the years. So kudos to you, man.
Thank you, man. I think it's something powerful about what you were saying about mindset. The reality is we can't determine how we get wounded, but we can determine how we heal. And when we take the opportunity to process and really have conversations with people about what it is that we may be going through, I think is something powerful about that. One of the worst things that we can do is to sit with our own pain and our own thoughts without processing those things. And so when we make up in our mind and when we find a safe place and trusted people that we can walk with, process, and really discover who we are becoming in the midst of whatever the pain is, I think that makes us better. I think it allows us to grow. It makes us stronger. And that's where the healing starts. It starts in community. We are better when we live our life within the confinements and the safety of sound counsel. And so, for the people that are on here watching that may be going through something, you don't have to go through it alone. Find you somebody that you can process with, that you can talk to, that you can talk with, that will help you navigate this journey called life.
Thank you. So this moment when your father passed, when he had this talk with you, are you saying that religion wasn't a part of your life at all? Or it was kind of like in the background and you just weren't taking it, it wasn't as integral as it ended up becoming? And how did that journey happen from going from where you were to, okay, this is what's up, this is what it's about, this is gonna be the fulcrum that I'm gonna pivot my life around?
Yeah, religion was there and I was around it, but I didn't have a relationship. And so for me, the way that I explain my life now is I have a relationship with Jesus. That's what I choose. That's what I lean into. And so at 12, 13, of religion. I knew of church. I was around it, but it really was not in me. And so when my father got sick, that got rocked. And the foundation of what I had heard that I was supposed to believe was rocked. And so at 12 and at 13, you're really living off of other people's faith and what other people believe until you develop that relationship yourself. And so it wasn't until later on in my life that I really developed a formative relationship that that gave my life direction and that gave my life meaning. And so, you just can't process that at 12, 13. I mean, you
Right.
hardly know how to tie your shoes at that age. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nonetheless, try to wrap your mind around heavy religion and ideology about
Right.
something that you're just trying to discover. And so my faith at the time was rocked because the foundation of it was built off of other people.
So now, it's evolved into, you're a pastor.
Yeah.
You're currently a pastor. So
Hmm.
clearly it's a big fulcrum, and it's obviously central. Here's a question I have. So obviously not everybody believes in the same religion,
Yeah.
has the same
Hmm.
God. Not everybody's religious, period. There's
Hmm.
agnostics and atheists out there. How do you reconcile your world, what you're doing, to include all these people?
Yeah.
I guess I'll leave it there. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I walk with people from all different backgrounds, all different belief systems. I have friends who have different belief systems. I think the beauty of life is we can be different and still have relationship. I think society and culture has taught us that all difference is bad, when in fact difference can be good. And I'm secure enough in what I believe to have people in my life, and for both me and my wife, one of our core values is you don't have to believe to belong. You don't have to believe what we believe to belong. I think that is the
I
core
like that.
principle of the God that we serve. He walked with
Hmm.
people that did not believe what he believed, but he carried out this relationship with them until they came into the understanding that there was something significant, there was something different, and there was something unique about the life that he lived that they needed. And so for me, that's how I desire to model my life after Jesus, after the God that I serve. And I'm a firm believer that if you feed people, they will follow you. It doesn't have to be anything complex. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But one of the greatest things that we could do for people, for humanity, is love them. And that is who Jesus is. That's what he did. He didn't say, hey, first you got to do this to get to me. First you got to believe this
Right.
to get to me. He just said, be and allow me to be in your
Right.
life. And because I believe there's something about me that will bring transformation and life change on the inside of you. And so that's the way I try to carry my life. That's how I lead the people that God allows to come across my path. And it's not through religion, it's through relationship. And so religion gives you a rule book and tells you these are the things that you can't do. Relationship presents to you something that's significant that you don't want to miss out on.
I
And
love that,
so,
man. By the way, if you see me doing that, I take notes on all my
oh
guests because
no,
I
no,
end
no,
up putting it
yeah,
in
yeah,
show notes.
yeah,
Sometimes I
for
think people are
sure.
like, "Is he working on the side?"
No, no.
Hopefully, people can't hear it because I have my headset on. But this is how, because I get these nuggets and
Yeah,
little certain things you said. I love that. Not about religion, it's about relationships. And sorry to cut you off. Finish that. And
no,
I wanted to have something I wanted to add to that as well. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
I think, when we look at it from that perspective and that lens, it's just like a marriage. My wife doesn't have to tell me, hey, these are the things that you can do. These are the things that you can't do. We have relationship. And so there's just things that I won't do. And there's things that she doesn't have to ask me to do that I will do because of how much that I love her. And I think that defines what it is that God desires from us. He craves for that relationship. We are here for a purpose. And in that purpose, in that plan, in that journey of life, when we discover that, it helps to make our life a lot clearer and better. And so we don't create our destiny, but we do discover it. And when we discover it, it sparks something in us where now our life becomes more than just us. It becomes about giving our life to a cause and to a people that go well beyond what we could do by ourselves. And I think, that's the blessing and the benefit of relationship. It allows you to do things you normally wouldn't do. That's what love does, right? It makes you do things you normally wouldn't do. It makes you do crazy things, like stay up in the morning and talk all times of night because you love the person. Not that you necessarily would do that by yourself, because you wouldn't, but relationship pushes you outside of the confinements of normality, and it brings you into a place that makes you better because of who you're in relationship with. And that's the blessing and the beauty of Jesus.
Right on. Let's talk about a few of those things. So let me preface this. So this is an
Hmm.
interesting conversation. I am not a particularly religious person. I
Hmm.
would consider myself spiritual,
Hmm.
I guess, in that I do think there's something up there. I think
Yeah.
that there is a greater power. There's a
Yeah.
greater force, right? Um, I think that, and it's funny, way back going to college, back when I was telling you I was your typical victim and was suicidal, I took a Religions of the World course, and it was actually that professor that actually sparked
Hmm.
my change and my what I call my rock bottom bounce. And he was showing us all these different religions around the world, right?
Hmm.
From Hindus in India to Buddhists in Asia to obviously, Christianity. And I'm
Hmm.
learning about the origins of all these things and then there's, from the smallest tribes in Africa,
Yeah.
which at this point probably there aren't, and this is 25 years ago. I don't think there's any that aren't discovered, but I mean, they were still discovering.
Right.
And there was every single one of them. What did they have in common? They all had an organized form of religion. Every
Right.
single one,
Hmm.
right? Even ones that had zero contact with any outside world, that they're, these tribes are just discovering. That just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Hmm.
And I was just like, wow, like why would mine be right and everybody else's is wrong? And so
Yeah.
what I loved about what you said is, to me, it's the spirit of taking whatever the religion is that's helping guide you, that's pushing you, that's gaining momentum for you, and helping you in your life, not to take it so literally that, and you have those people, like you said, I think you even used, I wrote it down, religion can be used as a rule book.
Yeah.
That's when it gets dangerous for me, because people are going, okay, this is what I believe in, and this is what's right, and you believe that over there, and you're wrong, like you were talking about earlier. It's about relationships. It's about inclusivity. It's about all being on the same page as one, with the same goal and the same purpose, which is just to be as happy in life as we possibly can. And if you're lucky enough to discover that giving back is actually the best way
Hmm.
to be happy. And so, I think that the way you're going about religion as a religious person, and that's got all sorts of stereotypes associated even with that word religious, right? And I don't even, let me ask you, do you like the word religious, or do you not like it?
I don't mind it. I'm not a religious person. And so I know that sounds crazy, but
Please tell me.
when you think about, or when you read about the life of Jesus, and so I had to do a cross-examination on our religions, when I was in Bible college. And so when you look at the life of Jesus, Jesus wasn't a religious person. As a matter of fact, it was the religious people that killed Jesus. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it has to be something that's greater than religion. It has to be something that's rooted and grounded in something that's deeper than the opinions of man. And so, and the thing that I would say, and the reason I believe what I believe, and I can only speak for myself, every single religion has a great lesson. Every single one. Every single religion has a great lesson.
Yes.
But I've only found one that gives true life. I've only found one where the person that the lesson is speaking about gives his life for other people. And so when you think about that context, when you think about that fact, even if you don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah, there's historical facts that prove that he was in fact real, that he was in fact a man, and that he did exist. So if we take that historic truth, what type of man would willingly die for people that he has never met? It doesn't make practical sense. And so for me, when I'm reading about all these other beliefs and all these other religions, in there's some lessons that are profound, that are insightful, that are great, but only one that I found that gives life. And so for me, that is the reason behind why I believe what I believe, and why I continue to go back to scripture and to the Bible, because it challenges me, it blesses me, and it blisters me. And I think anything that we look at that doesn't challenge us to become better, it's not good for us. It can hurt us. It's dangerous, because all of us need boundaries. All of us need some type of discipline. All of us need some type of confinement so that we can thrive. Can you imagine, well, a football game with no out of bounds, right? Or a basketball game with no sidelines, and no distinction for where players should play. It wouldn't be worth watching. And life is the same way. We have these boundaries and these sidelines that are placed in our life to keep us in order to thrive, and really utilize as a springboard and as a jumping board for us to get the most out of life. And for me, that comes through that relationship with Jesus. It makes
Right
me
on.
better, makes me a better son, makes me a better husband, makes me a better man, because it pushes me to live beyond myself.
And I love that. And at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is what I heard you say earlier. If somebody else is able to get that same, what you have, your relationship with Jesus, and the positive influence and ability to build your life, make you happier, gain momentum, so to speak, you're okay with it if it's with those people. And not only are you okay with it, you're inclusive of them, and you're saying, look, you believe that, I believe this, but at the end of the day, we're all the same. We're all in this together. Am I hearing that correctly, or do you? Go ahead.
I think society has taught us to polarize people that are different from us.
That's right.
And specifically with religion and what I believe that the God I serve is so powerful that if you don't believe it, eventually there's something in me that will help or add value to the life that you live. I can't change people. It's not I don't have the power to change people. But what I do have is the belief in someone that can. And so I think where we get into trouble is where we try to change people. We can't change ourselves. At the beginning of this year, at the beginning of 2021, we made promises to ourselves that we we're going to work out, that we we're going to eat differently, that we're going to do all these different things that we have not kept. And so if we can't change ourselves, how dare we think that we could change someone else? Only God can change us. Only God can change people. But in order for us to expose, in order for us to reflect in these people's lives what it is that's possible, we have to have relationships. And when we polarize these conversations, when we put up boundaries and when we throw up walls, it immediately cuts off an opportunity for us to demonstrate what it is that we actually believe that people need. And it's counterintuitive. It doesn't work like that. And so certain conversations can only come through relationship.
So, right, religion and politics, right? The two big ones. And those are the two, to me, I mean, there's a lot of polarizing topics these days. But you go back thousands of years, depending on where you lived, politics is I guess, a fairly new thing. But there's always, I mean, some form of politics. And, right, I mean, going back to Jesus, you're over here, you believe this, religion, politics. It's the number one divider. You used the word polarizing. That's exactly right. And you look at what happened, without getting into politics, because it's a slippery slope. And I like that we're focusing on religion. I've talked to plenty of my guests about politics, but this previous president in the U.S. and literally 50% of the people, not just being like, I disagree with you, but like, you're wrong, right, and you're evil for thinking what you think. And that's crazy, right? And it's kind of been, to me, it's been building year after year. You get the Republicans, you got the Democrats, which that's a totally that system needs to be fixed, because as long as you got two parties, just like you said, it's going to be me against you. That kind of mentality, those walls immediately go up. But then it takes somebody like you, me, that's like can see from the 10K view past that and be like, look, I don't care what your political, your religious belief is. Like, you know, what are you about? What are you trying to do with your life? And seeing through that and coming together with those people. And that's what I'm trying to preach. I'm not a pastor, but I'm trying to say, look, our world's right. Our world's never going to change. Yeah. We're just going to keep kind of going like this, and like we have our ups and downs if we don't all come together. And religion is one of those really tricky things to me that I still am, and I love having conversations like this, like learning, discovering, and trying to figure out the best way to connect, you know, the two sides. And I don't even want to put it like sides, but the different aspects and the different beliefs. Like I said, whether you're Hindu or you're agnostic or you're an atheist or you're Christian, and that we're all one. And it's unfortunate in a way that society has these categories, right? I mean, I see people writing on here, oh, you need to check out Hinduism, you know, Buddhism. Yeah. Everybody's always going to stand on the rooftop, just like you did. And it makes complete sense. That's how we're wired as human beings. Whatever they believe, like that's their path. And my point is, if it's working, more power to you. And if that's helping you to live the life, like you're saying, staying in bounds, live the life that you want to live, become your best self, abso-friggin-lutely, go for it. We just need to be careful not to polarize those other people that have different beliefs.
Yeah, like I said, I think society and culture tells us, specifically with politics and religion, you know, if you don't believe or if you don't vote in the way or in the manner that I vote, you are wrong. And we don't look at anything else in life like that. I mean, heck, we don't look at ice cream like that. When we go to an ice cream parlor, the more choices, the better. Because difference only affects us in a negative way when our perspective is that it affects us in a negative way. You know, we go to Cold Stone, we go to Baskin Robbins, we pile it on because we love difference. Thank God we're different. I can't imagine if we were all the same.
How boring.
Right. And so, you know, I think that we have to be careful, like I said before, forcing our opinion on to people.
Right.
And there are certain things that, you know, we take on when we can develop relationship with people where we can have conversations. And I believe there's something powerful about presence. And when you have presence and proximity to people, that's where life change happens. It doesn't happen from a bullhorn. It doesn't happen from a street corner. It happens from proximity and relationship. And so for me, man, that's what I try to do. I pray for opportunities where God gives us proximity to people so that we can have conversations and dialogue and do it
like this, right?
Yeah, this is it, man. Through love and grace. You know, no judgment, no pointing the finger. Hey, this is just who I am. I understand who you are, and let's live life. Let's see what happens and go from there.
Well, thank you for spreading that into the universe. Unfortunately, not everybody has that same view, and it's platforms like this. It's people like you and I that don't see the exact same lens in terms of what we might believe in, but we're still both human beings that have figured out a lot of stuff, had a lot of pain in our lives, and figured out these certain universal principles in life that if we follow and adhere to, whether, you know, it's in the Hindu Quran, I believe it is. God, don't butcher me if I say that wrong. Or the Bible, you know, these principles, these things that help us lead the life, our best lives. It's like, who cares where it came from? Like, let's all do it together, and let's bring those walls down. And because we got some work to do in this world, you know. I don't know how you feel about I use the word broken system, broken society, not to be a Debbie Downer, doom and gloomer, but just straight up, like I was saying, progress wise, momentum wise, I feel like our momentum has really stalled as a planet. And it's like, because there's all this polarization and back and forth, you can't go forward if you're just fighting all the time.
So true.
Right. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to switch gears slightly, unless, was there anything else you wanted to add on that?
No, man.
This is great. That was a great little segment. The other thing about religion that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around is, earlier in this conversation, I mentioned how you're what I call a growth owner. Before I even talked to you, looking you up, seeing what you're doing, looking at your pages, your videos, I could have told you that, right? And it has, to me, that has, I want to be careful with my words here, that doesn't necessarily tie to the religion, although I'm sure that you would argue that not only does it tie to it, but the religion is everything. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that one thing about religion that I still have an asterisk over my head on is that something to do with, it's not about determining our destiny, it's about discovering it. Whereas I would say that I would say it not opposite, but I would say we are our destiny through our actions, through our habits, through the path we choose. And nobody else is going to do that for us, whether it's the government giving us a $1,400 stimulus check, whether it's hitting the lottery, or whether it's God, Jesus Christ, who's going to hold our hands and do it for us. And so I know you didn't, I don't think you meant it to come out this way, but what I heard, and this is just, we're having a dialogue here, is, just put your faith and put your hands in somebody else, and you don't need to worry about doing the work. Like, they'll do it for you. They'll figure out your path. They'll figure out your journey. Versus me, I'm like, nobody else is going to do it for me. I got to do it. Right.
But I think, like I said before, that goes back to some of the religious mindset and mentality that people have. I'm not religious, and so there, even in the Bible, it says faith without works is dead, right? And so no matter what you believe, if there's not work ethic, if there's not a discipline, if there's not a hunger and really a desperation to do certain things, it won't get done. And so I'm a firm believer that what you don't obsess over, you will never achieve. And so it has to become something that you eat, breathe, sleep, you constantly think about, you dream about.
100% agree with you.
And so one of my favorite passages of scripture is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2. It says, write the vision, make it plain, so that when you read it, you can run with it. Well, there's three things in there that are super important to that. You have to write it down. You have to see what it is that you desire to accomplish. You have to read it every single day. You have to have those reminders. You have to be hungry about it. And after you write it down, you have to read it constantly, consume it. It's just like food. What we put in our body determines the energy that we can live our life with. And when you read it, it gives you the know-how, it gives you the driving force to run the play, to run with it, to carry it out. And I think oftentimes people that have desires and they have dreams without writing it and reading it, it's just a wish. It's what they hope for. There's a difference between what you hope for and what you actually do. It's different. And I believe one of the prerequisites to seeing it is writing it down and reading it. And that way you can run with it. And so, we have this humanity in the society. We have this thing, man, where we judge people based off of what they do, but we judge ourselves off of what we intended to do. And when we don't hold ourselves accountable to the future that we desire, we do ourselves a disservice. And so it's not saying that at all. I don't believe that someone else is going to make something happen for you. You have to carry out the work. You have to do the necessary practical things to achieve what it is that God has placed in your heart. He places it there. He places that seed there. He places that desire there. But you have to do the work. It's just like being freakishly gifted in sports, Even the most gifted have to work. Even the most gifted have to practice. Even the most gifted have to do these things in order to get the results that they know is possible. And kind of as I'm talking about this, I'm reminded, I love I love Animal Channel, man. I mean, I can
Me too.
watch Animal Planet all day. And I was watching this documentary on this group of lions. We all know lions are natural born killers. Natural, they are killers. That's what they do. That's who they are. But as I was watching this special, the narrator said something that stuck with me. He said, these lions have to practice hunting. And so although they're born, natural born killers, they have to continue to practice what they are born to do. And as people, we are the same way. We are gifted, we have graces, we have talents, but the things that we have those talents and giftings in, we have to practice them continually so that we could see those things come to pass the way that we know that they are possible and coming to pass with.
So it's what you just said is I couldn't have said it better myself, right?
Mm.
And there was no religion or anything in there. So right, I'm starting to understand more. Right, it's more about it's like it's a deep seated like this. Like I said, it goes back to principles, beliefs, growth owner. Like you see the world as look, this is where I want to get to. It's not going to happen for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say this is where I want to be. This is what I need to do, and I gotta practice and continue to take those actions until they compound over time to form the person that I want to become,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but religion. What word would I use besides religion? Your relationship with Jesus
Yeah,
Christ,
so my relationship with Jesus is this. He doesn't do the work for me, but he does the work with me.
right on.
And so
I
he
like
he
that.
gives me the ability to do what it is that I know he's calling me to do. And so he says, I'll be with you. And you know, whenever you read the Bible, you read the scripture, there's these things that happen to people that are just absolutely wild and painful, and people believe that a relationship with Jesus is a relationship without pain and struggle and turmoil, and that's not true. He says, I'll be with you through all these things. And so I think
Mm.
when we process it from a theologically sound perspective, it helps to set our expectations, and it helps to place our priorities in order to know, okay, this is possible, not because of my own strength, but because of the strength I'm drawing on in and through Jesus. And so he's not doing it for me, he's doing it with me.
So when you said earlier, help me clarify this statement. We don't determine our destiny, we discover it.
Yep.
Could you tell me, clarify that with what you just said and
Yeah,
reconcile those two?
we don't get a chance to dictate or determine when we leave this life, right? You know, there are accidents that happen, there are sicknesses that occur, in the rare occasion, people do take their lives, unfortunately. And so we're not the makers of our life. We didn't give ourselves life. And so what we can do is discover the life that God intends for us to live. It's just like a gift that we receive, you know, that's wrapped up. We didn't make it, we didn't create it, but we can unwrap it. And that's what life is. Life is a gift that is being unwrapped every single day if we choose to unwrap it. And so that's what that statement means. We don't have the ability to fill our air with lungs. We don't have the ability to give ourselves, you know, good health whenever we're sick. We don't have that ability. We didn't make us. And so there's someone that did. And so we have to continue to walk out this life and this journey, discovering the gift of life every single day. And that's a decision that only we can make.
Good answer. It wasn't a test, but it was, I'm trying to reconcile that
Mm-hmm.
giving our power over to somebody else versus no, I'm driving this ship. But I think the key that I got from that is he's doing it with you. He's not doing it for you.
Yeah.
And I think that gets lost sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think everybody gets that. And even if, you know, whether it's Hindu, Jesus Christ, I think some people mistakenly get caught up, and that's that fixed victim side of, well, if I believe, it'll all take care of itself. Right?
Man. Yeah.
You got to do the work.
You got to.
Well, dude, this is we're about out of time here. This was awesome. And I know we didn't talk, we talked a little bit about your book and stuff, but we kind of got into some side conversations.
Man.
That's usually how these things go.
Yeah, I love it.
You offered some really, really valuable insights, and I loved this conversation that we had, because it's not one I have very typically. And thank you for your insights. And I love the way that your brain works in terms of all this. And if everybody else is, could get on board and with that same kind of mindset, that growth owner mindset, world would be a better place. I like to end with this. I like to say, okay, because habits is a big part of my life. And I think everybody's lives, whether they know it or not. We develop these habits. Our habits end up forming who we are. They compound over time, right? A simple example is you eat a cheeseburger every day. When you're younger, it's not really going to affect you, but you start eating more cheeseburgers, that compounds 100 pounds over, right? So, and that's every area of our life. Is there one habit in particular that you are proud of, that you were able to develop over the years, maybe pre your dad dying to post your dad dying, and having this realization and the path that you chose, that has helped you to be the person you are and is going to keep propelling you into the future?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest habits for me is practicing patience. And I call it weight training. Weight training is when things aren't going the way you anticipated or expected them to, but you're patient enough to go through the process to see them develop and mature. And so we are, as a people, very impatient. We want what we want when we want it.
Right.
And I think that one of the greatest threats to the life that God intends for us to live is getting something prematurely. Anything that arrives into our life prematurely arrives too small. And so I try to practice patience. I try to practice, waiting and really stewarding moments to let the things that I am praying through, working for, to mature and grow into what it is that I am expecting.
I love that. That reminds me of a saying I say all the time. I'm 100% in line with that. And we're living in an insta world right now, an instant gratification. It's becoming harder and harder to wait, right?
For sure.
Just like we're talking about habits, our brains are being trained to know that we can hit a button and literally get just about anything we want in the world delivered to us in an hour, including our bodies delivered across town in an Uber. So that personal integrity, that discipline, that ability, like you're just saying, to go, look, it ain't going to happen overnight. And if it did happen overnight, it wouldn't be good anyways, because I didn't earn it, and it's not as gratifying. And so one of the sayings I say all the time, is from a movie called Vanilla Sky.
Yep.
Underrated movie. You seen it? Tom Cruise?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
So his buddy, can't remember the actor, but his buddy in it, he, at one point they're at his party, and he says, without the bitter, the sweet just ain't as sweet.
That's true.
And that just stuck with me for years. I say it all the time. And what you just said, that just sums up everything, right? It's like, you gotta have, if you want to really feel that awesomeness, it's like that show, The Lottery Ruined My Life. Like, you hand somebody a check for $1 million and they didn't earn it.
No,
bad things are going to happen.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
So, man, this was awesome. Thank you again so much for coming on. I really enjoyed that. Congratulations on your book. Tell us where we can find you. The book's called The Power of 1440. You can get it on Amazon.
Get it on Amazon, can get it Barnes and Nobles. You can go to thepower1440.com or anywhere books are sold. It's on every major platform and in every major bookstore. Love it, man. Well, thank you again. This is great. I want to keep in touch. Please. I see some of this happening. We're on the same team, right? We're on the exact same team. So much love to you. Keep doing your thing, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, Will. Same here. All right. Take care. Thanks.
That's it for the 5 Core Life. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button on this video and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes drop. Also, please fill out the free 5 Core Life Evaluator quiz. It's a great way to get a baseline of where you are in the 5 cores and which of the 5 cores you need support. In addition, you'll get some actionable advice that you can apply and start improving your life in the areas that you need it most. That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life Podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.